still in Module 2. This is the seller script. When you're driving leads into your business, you want to have a script in place. In the beginning, you want to take some calls just to get in the rhythm of talking to folks. But ultimately, you want to automate this. You want to load this up in your Answer First or Pat Live account and have someone else do this for you. Because when you're driving tons of leads into your business, you do not want to be taking these calls. This is the easiest way to automate this particular part of your business. So we'll start at the top here. Name, phone number, email. Believe it or not, I've had a lot of sellers give me pullback on giving an email address whenever I get these emails over from Answer First. They just don't like to put their email in there, but it's important to get that. So if you don't make them an offer and buy a property, buy their property, at least you can follow up with them. Drop them into your CRM system with some automated emails. Keep your business and your name out in front of them. Let them know that you're there to help them. Why are you selling? This is a great question. You're going to get all kinds of different answers, and it gives you an idea of the motivation, depending on if they're underwater or if it's if their grandmother passed away and it's just a probate property. So why are you selling is a really important question, and it just tells you a lot about what's going on with that particular person and that property. Asking price, no one's going to have a problem giving you that. Everyone's going to want a lot more than they think it's worth. The property address, that's an easy one. What do you think the property is worth? Now this is where you're going to get some things that are kind of all over the map, because if they already give you an asking price and then you ask them a few questions later what they think the property is worth, that could be all over the map. Depending on what's going on with them, they may give you a higher number, they may give you a lower number. It just depends. Square foot, bedrooms, bathrooms, garage, year built. I need to know this information here, because this is how you keep apples to apples. 4 bedroom, 3 bath, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, square foot. This is how you can do some research before you call them back. If you like what you see on this sheet when you get it, and you want to do a little bit of research on a property before you call them up, because it might be a really good deal. That's how you're able to do some research before you call them back. So a 1,200 square foot house obviously can't comp against a 2,000 or 2,500 square foot house. House that was built in 2010 isn't necessarily going to comp against a house built in 1925. So it's a good gauge to compare apples to apples if you need to. Any updates on the house. You don't have to ask them all these questions about when's the last time the roof's been replaced, the HVAC system, the hot water heater, the flooring, the bathrooms. Just ask them if there's been any updates, and they'll give you a little list. And then the condition. I like to break it into 3 categories like this, just because it gives me a really good idea of the condition of the property, and that's very important when you're calculating an offer, because the condition can swing the numbers, quite a bit. So I like to say, A, move-in ready. Is this property move-in ready? B, does this thing need repairs? That could be something minor, not too major. Pretty much every single property you'll come across, regardless if they say it's move-in ready, it's going to need something. Or is it C, vacant and ugly? And if someone says it's just vacant and ugly, it's almost a home run. Because vacant, ugly properties, people don't want them. They just want cash and they want to move on. So that's a great way to break that down in a couple categories. Are the payments current? So people that are not behind on payments may balk to that question. And people that are behind on questions, they'll humbly say yes or no. If they're behind on payments, they'll say yes. You don't need to get into too much detail about how many payments, the interest rate, is an 80-20 loan, blah, 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 blah. You just don't need, this is just the first pre-screen script that we want to pull. And depending on how they answer these questions, depends on whether or not we're going to call them back. What's the total debt owed on the property? This is a big one right here. A lot of people balk at this. People that are highly motivated will tell you. But this gives you a gauge and an idea of what they owe on the property versus what it's worth. You're looking for equity there. I mean, yes, you can work with a little bit of equity if you're in an appreciating market. Going to citydata.com for the zip code and finding out what that market is doing. Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it just flat? So if somebody owes $70,000 and they think the house is worth 80, and I go in and I look to see that the market's been appreciating for the last several quarters, then I know that I can mark that property up and create a spread. So I'd be a lot more motivated to call them back. But the same thing, if they owe 70 and they think it's worth 70, and I do some research and pull it up and I see the market that's been going down for the last couple of years, and it's probably not worth 70,000. So that might be an over leveraged house, and then the only strategy with that be is just to get it under contract and just assign it off to someone else for a fee, for a tenant buyer or something like that. You wouldn't get any cash flow off of it, but motivated sellers, you always try to provide a solution for them no matter what. Just try to put a deal together. The next question, would you accept a down payment and the balance of monthly payments? This is basically asking them if they'll carry seller financing for you. It's just an easy way to ask people, because when you ask them, hey, would you take seller financing on this deal? They don't understand what that means. So when people don't understand things, they take a step back and they say no. So it's just a very simple way for you to find out whether or not they'd be interested in carrying financing for you. And then this leads us into the next question. If they answer yes to the first one of would they accept the down payment and the balance of monthly, then the next question is, what's the least you could accept down in the monthly payment? And then, they'll let you know. Some people would say, oh, well, $40,000. That's like so unrealistic. Folks are putting 3% down with FHA, 10 to 20% with conventional, and I think you can't even come to the table with less than $20,000 with conventional and jumbo. So that's a credit. That's not our demographic. So it's just a very simple way to gauge whether or not they'd accept seller financing, and if I want to call them back or not, depending on how they answer that. Would you consider leasing the property with the option to buy? You definitely want to have multiple strategies. Obviously, our very first strategy is seller financing, because that's no money out of our pocket, because we're going to leverage someone else's down payment for the down payment on the offer that we make. But at the same time, if someone wouldn't accept seller financing just because they don't want to give you the deed, because they don't know you, they don't trust you, would you consider leasing the property with the option to buy? That's a great question. And it's actually a little bit easier, because you can create cash flow without the ownership, and they're still responsible for the taxes and the insurance. So, once again, we'll kind of go through all these from top to bottom, and I'll just kind of read through them. And the tone in my voice is important when you're first talking to folks. You don't want to be dry. You want to be, sincere. So, Mr. Seller, can I get your name, your phone number, and your email address? Well, thank you so much. Why are you selling the property? They'll answer that. What's your asking price? Your property address? And then the next one is like, what do you think the property is worth? So that can be a very broad answer. What's the square foot, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the garage? You know what year it was built? And then moving on, have there been any updates on the property? Okay, great. Well, if we could put your property in a category, A, being move-in ready, B, property needs repairs, or C, the property is just vacant and ugly. Next question, are you current on the payments? And then what's the total debt owed on the property? Would you accept the down payment and the balance of monthly payments? What's the least you could accept as a down payment and monthly payments? And last, would you consider leasing a property with an option to buy? So guys, that's the seller script. Load this up in an automated lead intake for yourself. Answer first, Pat Live. It'll save you a lot of time and trouble, because you don't want to be answering these calls all day, especially if you're still working during the day. I love this, because when I sent my marketing out, I was getting emails during the day, and then I would call those folks back the next morning before I went to work. So it worked beautifully. It continues to work, and I still use it today. So guys, we'll see